He's a motivational speaker that motivates. I mean, he's full of content, full of information, full of enthusiasm.
And he brings substance in a way that is charming, fun, witty.
He got audience interaction by just his facial tones and his animation, and so I think it overall made him a good speaker.
Hello, I'm Arnold Sano, and I want to thank you for viewing this sample video. My objective is to provide you with an interactive, enthusiastic, content-oriented, and entertaining program tailored to your unique concerns. I will focus on your people, your challenges, your competition, and your needs. When you will receive real-life, how-to information that your employees or members can walk away with and use immediately. I have delivered over 2,500 speeches and seminars to a variety of companies, organizations, associations, and governmental agencies. And over 90% of my clients have hired me back or referred me to others. I also hold the prestigious Certified Speaking Professional designation from the National Speakers Association. And I'm the author of 5 books, a business owner, and an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. So when you are ready for more than just another rah-rah rally, more substance and less hype, and specific strategies and solutions you can use now, please contact me or your favorite Speakers Bureau. Thank you. Number one fear, I'm sure most of you heard of most Americans, according to the Booker list, is what? It's getting up in front of a group and speaking. Number 6 is what? Anybody want to? Death. People are more afraid of speaking in front of a group than dying, just to put this into perspective. So that's where we're coming from. And I think Jerry Seinfeld said it best. He says, well, if that's true, that means more people would rather be in the coffin than say the eulogy. So we got that into perspective of where we're there. And when I talk about moments of magic can be simple these days. For example, just returning a phone call. Has any of you ever returned a phone call and somebody says, geez, thanks for calling me back? Have you ever had that happen? They're so thrilled you called them back, and you get just business because you had that happen. I actually had a client one time who hired me, and I was like 3rd on their list. They had 2 other people they had used, they wanted, they liked them really. They loved these guys. And then I never thought I'd hear from them again. And they called me one day and they said, well, we're going to hire you. And I said, well, what happened to the others? And they said, well, they just didn't call back. And it was just the calling back alone. And so the point of this is they didn't even like me and they hired me. So, just to show you the thing is you can get work no matter how good you are. That's the point of the whole being right there. Everything I'm going to talk about today starts with you. Good customer relations starts with you, because who's the only person in this room you can change when you really boil it down to it? Yourself. And if you don't believe it, has anybody here ever tried to change your husband or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your kids, and you wonder after your 5th divorce why it's not working? But anyway, actually I did that the other day to somebody, and they said, how'd you know I had 5 divorces? So I really got to watch what I'm saying here. But you need to look at yourself, and the only way to really change is to become aware, and that's why you go to things like this that we had today. I don't mean to be fluffy on this. This is not really an attitude talk, but the foundation for everything we do. The problems that you see come from sort of a lot of attitude breakdowns. And actually, there was a study done by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce of 10,000 people who were fired from jobs. And guess what percentage? Anybody take a wild guess what percentage were fired because of incompetence? Take a wild guess. Anybody? Yeah, you're getting a little better. It's actually only 4% of the people were actually fired because of incompetence. The others were things like attitude, and they were pain in the neck, or people didn't want to deal with them. And it gets into this internal customer service we're going to talk about. So everything begins and ends with your attitude. And just to give you some examples, has anybody here ever applied for a job at a Hyatt hotel? Anybody applied? Some of you applied for a job at a Hyatt hotel. Now, I don't know if this is true for all Hyatts, but some of the Hyatts, actually, if you go to an interview at a Hyatt hotel, and you do not smile at least 5 times in a 5-minute interview, guess what happens to your odds of getting a job there? 0. You will not get a job at that Hyatt hotel. And it was interesting. I had a guy in one of these seminars one time. He raised his hand. He says, well, that's unfair. They should tell you have to smile. So, that's when I have real problems with these things, as we're going through that area. And to put this into perspective, I just want to relate a story to you that you might have heard before, but it sort of hits home with this. And is everybody here familiar with monasteries, where men go and they can't speak and they can't talk and they're quiet? You know how you see these old movies and it's just quiet in there all the time? Well, there was this young monk, and he had gone to a monastery and he'd been there for 2 full years. And he had said nothing. He had said absolutely nothing. But then after 2 years, the chief monk gets up to him and he says, you can say 2 words. And you know what he says after 2 words? He says, 2 years, he says, bed, lumpy. That's it. After 2 years, that's all he said. Now he's into this monastery for 4 years, and he says, you can say 2 more words. You know what he says after 4 years? He says, food terrible. That's it after 4 years. Now he's into this monastery for 6 years, and all he said is food terrible and bed lumpy. And you know what he says after 6 years? He says, I quit. And the chief monk goes up to him, he says, just going to put this coffee over there. Chief monk goes up to him and he says, it doesn't surprise me one bit. All you've done since you've been there is complain and complain and complain. So the bottom line of this thing is, let me just ask you this, just by a show of hands, how many of you see the best side of everything no matter what? But there's one thing I want to recommend here is, I did this, one of my clients a long time ago was National in Dulles Airport, and we did a customer service communication program, sort of a success skills thing for the year, and we had about 40% less complaints on customer relations there, and we did one thing, and you might want to remember this today, is we did something called the flip side exercise. And the flip side exercise is you see the best side of everything no matter what. And one of the things that we had, so let me test you on this one, by the way. Okay, what would be, let's say you hated your job. What would be the flip side of that? At least I've got a job. Okay, Anna's got it. Anna's got it. Okay, she's got a job. There we go. Let's say you put a dent in your new car. That could be pretty devastating. What would be the flip side of that? At least you have a car. You're alive. You're alive. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, here's one that might get you really disturbed, and you might have, be grumpy at work. You're treating everybody bad. Let's say your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend just sort of took off on you. I mean, that could be pretty devastating. What would be the flip side of that? Do whatever I want. More room in the closet. I mean, I'm hearing all sorts of things over there. I think I'm missing the point with that one. But anyway, skip that one and that aspect of it.
Arnold is one of the most rousing presenters I think I've ever seen. He was able to provide a sense of enthusiasm, some solid tips.
I got a lot out of it because it's something that we use in our daily work. And also, when you're away from work, it's something that you're always using when you're dealing with people.
If I had an opportunity to hire Arnold, I would, because of how he delivers himself, his attitude being positive, his ability to communicate and bond with people, even as a large group like an audience.